Secretary of State Michael Watson is joining us, and updates from his office. Good morning, Michael. How are you, sir? It's good to have you. And seen you in a while there, sir.
Now, where you been hiding, Paul?
Well, I was going to say the same thing for you. Last time I saw you, I think you had a beard. I mean, that was how long ago was that? So
yesterday.
I just posted something on the Twitter account on some things that people may not know about the state of Mississippi, and I went there to the Secretary of State's office and the Y'all Business website, which is still there and active. And I'm not sure how many hits you're getting on that thing, but it has got loads of information. But it's just one of those things, and just some bullet points. Would people in other states have no idea about what's going on in the state of Mississippi? Your thoughts, sir?
Paul, I'm incredibly, really just excited about what's happening in Mississippi. And if you look at kind of the broad landscape about all the new businesses that are coming here, the new business formations, some new things that we're starting. We've got a new webinar. Matter of fact, the next one is, what is tonight? Well, last night at 6 p.m. So new businesses that are coming in, they're able to sign up for this webinar to learn about, hey, what are the things happening in Mississippi? What are the resources that I need to be aware of? How do I get my small business off the ground? So we're really attacking that, making sure that Mississippi is a friendly place to start your business. The legislature has done a great job of creating a great and business-friendly climate. So we've got to maximize those efforts, and there's no better time, Paul, to be in Mississippi than now.
Yeah, Mike, what do you think? What's the missing link here? What thing that we need to take care of that we haven't? I mean, we're getting there slowly but surely. In talking to people like Aaron Rice the other day on just some of these blue laws that are just not needed, we're slowly but surely getting those out of the way. But when you look at it, and you look at it also from the perspective as a former legislator, what do we need to kick this in the next gear?
I think a couple of things, Paul. Number one, Mississippi is one of the most regulated states in the Southeast. And as we have talked before about our Tackle the Tape initiative, we're doing a great job cutting regulations in Mississippi. And I think you're seeing that in business growth where folks are saying, wait a minute, we've got this benchmark and it's only going to be fewer regulations. Mississippi's a great place to be right now. So you got that. I love the conversation about eliminating our income tax. I think that's a big seller across the country and something that grabs attention. I think we also got to continue to really tell our story. We do a terrible job, Paul, of getting out and telling the great things of Mississippi. We allow this national narrative to take over, and that's something we got to do much better job of, and really with our youth as well.
But how do we do that? I mean, often talk about the liberals owning the PA system in a stadium, and we got those two little cheerleader megaphones on the sidelines. So they have owned so long the voice of the country. And when we sit here and we tout a new business opening or something, and all of a sudden a Jon Stewart or a Colbert goes on and makes a Mississippi joke, it hurts us. It really does. And I've always thought that's a form of bullying by those folks because it hurts poor people, black and white, in the state to get to the next level. But I agree with you on that.
I tell you this, Paul, one of the things that we found very successful is finding successful Mississippians who understand our state, who understand that national narrative doesn't make sense. It's not true. People like Bill Cook. Bill and I sat down several months ago, and we were able to go find some friends of his that he had done business with out of D.C. and around the country and said, look, let me tell you a little bit about Mississippi. Well, they're going to be locating here in DeSoto County pretty soon, so cat's not quite out of the bag on that. But we're really excited about that kind of idea. Find the successful Mississippians who have done a great job around the country, find their business colleagues and say, hey, look, why don't you come down to Mississippi? Let me tell you about it. And so that's the key. Us working together and teamwork is going to get this thing done.
What kind of business is the aforementioned? What type of business do they have?
So this is a type of a fulfillment center. It's more like a competitor to Amazon, actually. So it's a newer business. I'm really excited about that. And again, more details I'm sure will come in the future. But it's a big one. And it's one that, again, talking to successful Mississippians, hey, who are the folks that you've done business with that trust you, that understand you're not going to sell them, some fake story here. Tell them about Mississippi. Tell them about what's going on that's good here. And so we went and sat down with the CEO of this company. And I talked to him about cutting our regulatory burden, talked to him about the conversation about cutting the income tax, talked to him about the safety, the great places in Mississippi, the education systems around the state that are really good in certain parts of the state. These are the places where we want you to locate. And we were successful in doing it, Paul.
It's high level. That's a high level sales pitch right there because it affects a lot of different people. When you look across the table and you see his eyes, his or her, I guess it was a guy, their eyes twinkle a little bit. What made that twinkle? What were the things? Did the income tax, now one of the lowest income tax in the nation, certainly it hasn't been eliminated, but it is at that rate one of the lowest. Well, I think it's about the fifth lowest in the nation as far as personal income tax.
It's way down there.
The fifth or ninth, I forgot. It's somewhere in the top 10. That said, do you think that resonated with him, or what resonated the most? Workforce development, et cetera?
No, I think, Paul, it really was having understanding. Look, you've got a statewide elected official here that's going to come sit down and have dinner with you, talk to you about the things that are happening in Mississippi. You've already got this understanding of a friend whom you've done business with, that you trust, that you know is going to, again, tell you the truth about the matter. And then it is those things about the regulatory burden being cut. It is the conversations about cutting the income tax. Those things kind of supplement the idea, but it's about relationships, Paul. And so I think that's the important thing. When we see successful Mississippians, let's go talk to them. Hey, who are your friends that you do business with that we can go sit down with and invite them to our state? Once we tell them about Mississippi, once they've been here and visited, seen it for themselves, it just changes that narrative.
You know, I was just thinking, and it slipped my mind. I forgot what the word for what it's being called, but the fact that the new thing that we put into force, where a business can look and see exactly what the incentives are in the state. I know that's going to be helpful in the future because they can see exactly what they would get and what they need and et cetera. Speak to that. And again, Michael Watson's my guest.
Yeah, Paul, that's really important. The key there is, those things were put into place that is my understanding of the legislature and how they frame those up is you either get that or you don't. You either meet those metrics or you don't. And unfortunately, that's being turned into something else where people have to sign off on it. Well, I do think they meet it. Well, you either do or you don't. So it's something we're going to have to work through. It's going to get better. But again, I think it's those relationships that we've got to focus on. And then you talk about, hey, here's the incentives, and not necessarily incentives, but here's the business-friendly climate that we've built in Mississippi that's important to you. Look at the things that are going on here. Great things happening all around our state. And we just got to be prepared to defend ourselves, really, and tell a good story.
Yeah. Well, and as the taxes and the living conditions get more suppressive in places like California, New York, New Jersey, state of Washington, et cetera, and people are looking for someplace they can move that business, and certainly if it's more digital-based, with the investment we're making in broadband, they can do that from the ocean shores of Ocean Springs or Biloxi or South Haven or Madison or wherever it happens to be.
That's right. And again, I talk about local businesses and their great ideas, but Brandon Elliott's a guy on the coast, and he identified this really quickly. And the things that you just talked about, the riots and everything that you talk about going on in our country, that's not happening in Mississippi. So you've got safety, you've got a beautiful Gulf Coast, you've got beautiful other parts of the state. Why not now look at Mississippi? Again, business climate is friendly, taxes are low, the community is really welcoming and wants you to be here. Yeah. We got to get out and tell our story to invite these people in, and people like Brandon are finding ways to do that, to bring in talent, to bring in career-minded people who want to be in Mississippi, who want to be in a safe place where they can grow up around a family and do great things. So again, thinking outside the box and attacking that with Mississippi's successful businessmen and women is going to be key.
People want to brand us by the lowest expectations. Sometimes they want to brand us by the poverty and the worst. But every state has its poverty. Every state has something that they need to improve on, of course. But that said, when you start talking about that, we have so many hometowns, as I mentioned yesterday. There's so many hometowns where we have good schools, as good as any other place in the South and many in the North. Hometown schools and medical facilities and safety as far as the police department and the sheriff's department, and I agree with you wholeheartedly. When we come back, I want to ask you this about the statutory exemptions regarding the medical marijuana and a couple of other things when we return with the Secretary of State, Michael Watson, coming up next. All righty. I'm glad to see us put a smile. The reason to do that, put smiles on people's faces on the way to work or at work or wherever they happen to be. We are spending some time with Michael Watson, the Mississippi Secretary of State, and the governor recently vetoed campaign finance legislation. As the Secretary of State, what are your thoughts on that?
Well, Paul, I thought that was a bad decision. One of the things he pointed out was when he was lieutenant governor, he pushed that through. I think it was in 2017, and I voted for it. And so the idea then was, look, you got an elected official here, and this was my understanding, his position. You got an elected official here that could weaponize that. So let's go put it over here at the Ethics Commission. And again, maybe not so bad of an idea on its face, but after 4.5, 5 years now, we just saw an article come out earlier this year. There's $150,000 that haven't been paid back with campaign finance fees and fines. The Ethics Commission we've given them a list of individuals who didn't file on time. The Ethics Commission then puts the fees and fines out, sends a letter. Folks don't respond, and how it's supposed to work is that's supposed to go to the Attorney General's office, and then they work on collecting those fees and fines. Well, unfortunately, again, we've got $150,000 out there. It's disjointed. It isn't working. And Paul, we didn't hear one word from the governor's office during session. The first time we ever heard about it was the veto message. The Ethics Commission didn't hear from the governor during session. The first time they heard about it was when it was vetoed, just a few days ago. So we work with the legislature, overwhelming support for the change. I am the elected official here in this situation. And what I've always talked about is accountability, Paul. I've got an elected official here that the people can hold accountable. If they think I'm weaponizing campaign finance, fees and fines because people are late, you can vote me out of office if I'm doing that. It's not working as it is. We talked to the Ethics Commission. They went to the legislature. By the way, the Ethics Commission, the same group that the governor says should be doing this, that he trusts, are the ones that are saying, no, it actually should be back at the Secretary of State's office because it's not working as it is. So, to hear from it about it just a few days ago when we had a long session, there was a problem there.
This is kind of new territory for a lot of people in this audience. So let me break it down just a little bit. 150,000 is cumulative across the state with how many different politicians have violated this?
So that's about since 2018, and I can't remember the number off the top of my head, Paul, but it goes, it's state elected official. If you run for statewide office, if you run for state senate, state house, if you run for district level, if you run for local, whoever it is, if you don't file your campaign finance report forms, again, we're talking about sunlight here, making sure people understand who's supporting whom and why are they making votes that they're making, why are they saying what they're saying on the campaign trail. Just a good understanding in that sunshine. So once they do not file those on time, we put a list out. And that list says so-and-so did not file their report, or they could have filed it between the time we put the list out and the deadline time. So they're, you're okay, you filed your report. But if you continue to go late, then your fines start to rack up. And so the Ethics Commission was charged with, back in 2017 when we changed the law, I believe it was 17, was charged with, okay, the Secretary of State is going to send you this list of folks who have violated this, who haven't sent in their campaign finance reports. You then are the ones in charge of fining them now. That's defined in statute. So it's not like I can go say, hey, you're going to pay $1 million on yours. You're going to pay 50 on yours. No, it's defined and it's set by statute. So if you're over 15 days, here's a formula.
So you don't have any prosecutorial powers to do this. You have to hand that over to the Ethics Commission?
That's exactly right. So we set the list up. Okay. We send it to Ethics Commission. Ethics Commission.
And nobody's doing anything about this. And that list is out there since 2017. It is 150,000, and I would guess that this is a group of politicians, men and women, black and white or whatever, that some have won and some have lost, but they still owe that money of those fines.
That's true. That's true, Paul. And again, if we see something that's not working, I understand making a change in 2017. Hey, let's do it this way. But if it's not working, and then you don't talk to either of the two individuals that are kind of working on this to say, hey, why is it not working? How do we make it better? You just veto the bill without talking to anybody. Something doesn't work there.
So the governor did not consult with the Secretary of State's office at all about why did he give it? What was the explanation at the end of it, or his explanation of why he vetoed that bill?
Again, as I understand it, he was very proud of his work in 2017. He was concerned, and I think he specifically said, not about anybody in office now, but he was concerned about it being weaponized by an elected official. Again, if someone weaponizes something, then the accountability level there is the voters. They're the ones that are going to send you either home or continue to let you do your job. And he wanted it to the Ethics Commission. So, again, I understand the change of 2017. If something's not working or if you're worried about being weaponized, give it a shot. But if it's broken,
I'm trying to figure out the terminology of weaponized, because if you clearly violated the law and the fine was initiated, it's spelled out with the law. If there was some weaponization going on, which means somebody overstepped their bounds, which also could mean they would be culpable for some consequences for misuse of their office. But hey, I'm not an elected official, so I don't understand all the ins and outs of that. But if it is a law, you have been fined, and it's meaningless, would that the bill that passed that he vetoed, would that have corrected that?
It would not. It leaves the broken system in place. The bill was going to correct the system to put us back in charge.
But that's what I'm asking you. Yeah.
Right. Yeah, the bill would have corrected it. Correct. Yes, that's true.
Okay.
We're on the same page.
All right. So is there a possibility that'll be taken up next year? I mean, there's nothing to do before the next session. You nor anybody else except the governor can call a special session, so it just sits there till next year.
It does, and I've heard some chatter about possibly a veto override. So we'll see some conversations whether or not that's going to be an option or something the legislature wants to look at. We'll see.
What's the timeline on that?
Again, back to my legislative days, I can't recall. I believe it's the early part of the session there. Obviously, I'd have to go back and look at my rules again.
You issued a statement here, and I tried to pull it up. I can't find it. The statement on the statutory exemptions regarding medical marijuana. You want to speak to that?
Yeah, sure. That's another one we work with the legislature on. I want to be very clear here, so your readers or listeners understand. So they're going to be exempt. This is the Department of Health and the Department of Revenue with medical marijuana, the program, implementing the program, going to be exempt from some hiring practices from the Department of ITS when they sign these big contracts. Some procurement issues are going to be exempt from those. The APA, the Administrative Procedures Act, so the rules by which these folks have to operate. Again, I want to point this out. The Department of Revenue and Health have both said we're going to do our very best to comply with the law. But because we've given this exemption from the legislature, we don't necessarily have to. So again, I appreciate them trying to work with us. Now, we talked to the legislature and said, we don't need this for APA. You can put emergency rules in for 120 days and then get another extension 90 days. And while those are in place, you can go through the process, the APA process. So you file those rules. They're up for public comment for 25 days. You then file the final rule, and it's up for 30 days. So it's about a 55-day process if you work completely straight through it. So there would have been time for them to file temporary rules and then go through the normal APA process. Yeah. They didn't do that. We tried to make the legislature aware. I sent the governor a letter explaining it to him from the APA side of things. But again, that was not heard, and moved forward as is.
All right. I do want to ask you this before we run out of time here. Anything in the state legislative session of the 2022 session that has bearings on the Secretary of State's office? Besides,
we had a good session overall, Paul, other than those couple of things there. As we've talked about many times before, the proof of citizenship issue, making sure only United States citizens are voting our elections. We finally got a version of that through. Now, it wasn't the strong version that we were advocating. It was weakened a bit in the Senate, but it did get out. A few other things that did not get out we'll continue to work on in the coming years that are very important, and it deserves probably its own listening session and talking session with you to walk through those. But a couple of good things happened. Scrap metal, we did some things with that, some charities. Again, the office is big, so we probably need another session where I can walk through that with you.
We will do that in accordance with as far as making the votes a little more secure. I did notice that Governor DeSantis also signed that, also double-checking, making this ballot harvesting even more difficult. So we're right in line with the Florida governor. Michael, it's always good talking to you, sir. Appreciate it very, very much.